Alright, on today's lesson we're going to be talking about fear. Now, what is fear? Fear means you scared of something. What you scared of, right? So, fear causes anxiety. That's the first thing I want you guys to know, is that fear causes anxiety, alright? So, anything that's causing you a form of anxiety is causing you a form of fear. Anxiety affects your nervous system. Alright? Yeah, we have to jump right into it. Alright, so look. Anxiety affects your nervous system. So, this is why we want to avoid fear at all costs. When our nervous system is affected, most of the times we look for what we like to call a way to cope. So, fear causes anxiety. Anxiety causes your nervous system to start activating. Because your nervous system is activated, now you need coping. We call these coping mechanisms. Alright? Coping mechanism. Now, if your fear is positive or negative, you never know. Your nervous system has needed a coping mechanism, right? Now, we want to make sure that our coping mechanisms aren't negative. So we have positive, we call that positive reinforcement, or negative coping mechanisms. So it will be a form of negative coping mechanisms. Anything that's not for you, because the fear, so let's just say smoking, drinking, watching too much TV, indulging in anything out of moderation is too much of it, right? So we want to avoid fear. Because when we fear things, we tend to try to over-control. So, over-control. We want to control the dynamic of how we feel about that fear, right? So because we want to over-control something like our anxiety, which causes our nervous system to activate, we go to these coping mechanisms. And 7 times out of 10, your coping mechanisms are not positive reinforcements. So how do we create positive reinforcements to deal with our fear and over-control and anxiety in our nervous system, right? So, what I like to say, what you want to do is, you want to know that you can't over-control anything. You can't control these negativities. And instead of, okay, so look, well, it also causes you to avoidance. Avoidance is hiding. So you hiding from the things that's causing you fear. And that's where all of this coping mechanism stuff comes from, because you hiding from the things that's causing you fear. So instead of hiding from the fear, we want to have the positive reinforcement to overcome. Alright, so instead of dealing with it with coping mechanisms, we want to overcome. Alright? So let's write that down. Because that's a duality. Alright, so we have dealing versus overcoming. Let's just say that when we have these negative coping mechanisms, we are dealing with it the best we can by hiding from the things that's causing us fear and anxiety that we want. So now we want to over-control by avoiding it with the negative coping mechanisms that's affecting our nervous system. So this is how we deal with it. But instead we want to overcome. So how do we overcome? We don't hide from it. We see what's affecting our nervous system and we overcome by detachment. We call that peace be still. So we overcome the things that's affecting us negatively by detachment, alright? Detach. We call this peaceful detachment because we are dealing with something that's causing us to be in fear, over control, it's affecting our nervous system. We don't want to keep going through that, right? So we detach from that thing that's causing it, no matter what it is, person, places, or things. We want to detach from that. And why is it so important that we detach from that? Because operating from fear and it's affecting our nervous system, it's causing us to have a particular type of mindset. We call this mindset scarcity. It is creating a scarcity mindset. It is creating a scarcity mindset because we feel like the only thing we can do is what we've been doing to overcome the fear. We don't see God's abundance, right? God's abundance says we don't have to have that. We can just detach from that and there's way more positive things out there for us. So, when we overcome by detachment, now, what does that give us now? Because we realize that we don't have to go through that. We don't have to deal with these things. Now we have an abundant mindset. Abundant mindset now. Because we have overcome our fears and because we love ourselves and we detach, peaceful detachment, peace, be still. You know what I'm saying? See, in the Bible it says, be still and know that I am God. So, we peacefully detach from that and we trust in the Father. We trust that God gonna make a way. You know what I'm saying? Because God is the truth. And the truth says that we are not supposed to be dealing with this negativity consistently because it's affecting our nervous system and causing this scarcity mindset. And now, because it's affecting our nervous system, our heart is beating irregular. That's just not healthy anyways. And it's causing us to deal with these coping mechanisms that we want to overcome the coping mechanism too. But if we steady going through the thing that's causing us to have to deal with the coping mechanism, it makes it even harder for us to overcome the coping mechanism in the first place. Right? I was talking kind of fast. Slow it down. Do whatever you got to do. But that's what that is. Alright? So, this is the importance of overcoming your fears. So let's use it. Let's set up an example for it. Let's do an example. Alright. Now I don't want to do nothing like, let's just say that every single thing you deal with, everything, I ain't talking about boyfriend, girlfriend, but everything is a relationship. Anything you're going through, you have a relationship with watching TV, you have a relationship with smoking cigarettes, you have a relationship with watching the news, you have a relationship with your job. Everything is a form of relationship, alright? So relationship. Now this is the example. We're going to make it real broad. Everything is a relationship. Everything that you indulge with person, places, and things, you are building a relationship with that. So if that relationship, no matter what it is causing fear and having you to have to over control, so now you try to avoid it, right? With your coping mechanisms, I'm not going to write that again, with your coping mechanisms, and you don't want to keep going through that because it's affecting your nervous system, which is causing you the scarcity mindset, what do you need to do? Detach from that relationship and find something else to have a relationship with. So that relationship is no longer good for you. But guess what? There are plenty of relationships with plenty of positive aspects in life that you can have out there in this world. So because there's so many other relationships that you can have that are positive in comparison to that negative one. So remember, positive versus negative. Positive versus negative. Right? So, in order to know what's positive versus negative, you're going to have to use your awareness, consciousness. Are you conscious of if this thing is, of course, if it's causing you fear, you know, I mean, now sometimes fear is not always a bad thing, right? Because if you know there's sharks in the water and you're afraid to go in the water, that might be good for you so you can save your own life by not going in that water where them sharks at. That's a good form of fear. You know what I'm saying? That's positive. I'm scared of something that I know will affect me in the long run, not in a good way. So I'm going to stay away from that. I'm going to detach from going in that water. I'm not going to go hop in the water. You know what I'm saying? So it's a positive thing for me to not go out there in that water. I do not want a relationship with the water where the sharks at. You get what I'm saying? So I'm going to detach from that, right? So now, what are we going to do? I'm going to stay over here on the beach where the sand is because it's positive over here. I feel good, the sun out, and this is way better over here than it is over there. Now, we might not be able to have the best because we want to get in the water right, but we can't get in that water right now because it's sharks there. So what we're going to do? We're going to do what's positive. And guess what? This might not be what I want, but it's better than that. You see what I'm saying? It's better than that. So this is positive, and that's negative. You know what I'm saying? Use your imagination on this one. So this is what we're doing. This is how you overcome your fear. And because you were overcoming your fear, guess what you have for yourself? Love. You got love for yourself. You have compassion for yourself. Alright? You have compassion for yourself. You know that I can't be out there in that water swimming with them sharks. It's not for me. And I love myself enough that I'm not going to keep going through something that's causing me to be moving from fear and try to over-control the scenario with all of these negative coping mechanisms that I'm dealing with. So, let's talk about another thing that's got to do with fear, alright? So, when it comes to relationships, and remember, we're using relationships as a broad term right now. A very broad term. Everything is a relationship. So let's just say it's always this. It's always love versus fear. In any form of relationship. And fear leads to resentment. Alright? I talked about this in another video. Resentment. So look, because of all the negativity that the fear is causing us, that negativity of the fear turns into resentment, right? And this is when you start to hating it. You start to hating whatever you're in a relationship with because it's always causing you fear and resentment. Now you hate it, right? Eventually you're gonna start hating it. So if you don't detach from it, you're gonna start hating it. So you need to know that hate is a byproduct. Hold on. Byproduct. Alright, so hate is a byproduct. Hate is a byproduct of fear and resentment. Fear and resentment turns into hate. So because we don't want to be hating nothing, we don't need that in our heart. We ain't got no hate in our heart. We got love in our heart. So guess what? We're going to detach from anything that's causing us fear and resentment so we can get back to our love. You know what I'm saying? We can have compassion because we got so much love in our heart. We can have compassion for that that's causing us fear and resentment, but we still got to detach from it. We still got to let it go. We can't suck it up and keep going through that. That's the duality right there. Sucking it up versus letting it go. If it ain't positive for you, you gotta let it go. If it ain't working out in your favor, you gotta let it go. You can't keep sucking it up, going through this negativity that is causing you. You gotta let it go. Slowly but surely sometimes. Sometimes it don't just happen overnight, but practice makes perfect. Slowly but surely you taking steps away from that. You know what I'm saying? You getting yourself in position to be doing something better for yourself so you ain't gotta keep going through that. Because sometimes you can't just detach from the things that's negative in your life. Sometimes you gotta slowly but surely detach and bring more positivity into your life. And when you do it like that, see, when you just discard yourself from something, you just jumped out there in the deep end. And you can't even swim like that. But when you slowly but surely take step for step, removing yourself from a situation, now you can kind of see the future. Now you operate from abundance. You know what I'm saying? Because when you just throw yourself out there into confusion, you confused and you don't know what your next move gonna be. Like, let's say you're working at a job that you don't like, and you just quit the job because of what it's doing. Nah, you need to be already searching for a new job before you leave that job, because you want to make sure you keep getting your money so you keep paying your bills, take care of your family, take care of yourself, right? So you can't just jump out there like that, because when you just jump out there and let it go immediately like that, that's still a form of scarcity mentality, because now you're operating from confusion. You don't know what you're gonna do next. So, but if you do know what you're gonna do next, you know exactly how it's gonna go, so you can make sure you maintain. Maintenance, this is what we call maintenance. You ain't just trying to conquer. So that's two dualities right there. So we got conquer versus maintenance. And the one we always use, understanding versus confusion. We want to understand what we're doing right at all times. And we want to maintain, we want to have maintenance of how we're moving. We want to have maintenance of how we're moving. And see, remember, no duality is good or bad, but we want to have maintenance of how we're moving so we can conquer, so we can eventually conquer that we don't like no more, that negativity by detaching from it. You know what I'm saying? Now that right there, that's an abundant mindset right there. That's abundance for you right there. That's an abundance mentality. And guess what? We still getting our bag. We still overcoming. Matter of fact, now when we go to work every day, we ain't even tripping like we was tripping, because we already know we about to be up out that thing. You know what I'm saying? We ain't even gonna be here too long. So we ain't even gonna let you stress us out. You know what I'm saying? And guess what? Now when they see they ain't stress you out, they see they ain't work for you, they might be trying to give you a raise. They're like, hold on, man. Like, we want to hold on to you. What do you need? You know, yeah, now you worry about what I need. Now you love me. But you been having me moving from fear and resentment, you know what I'm saying, to the point where I'm about to hate you, you know what I'm saying? So now when I get ready to detach from you, now you want to start trying to crawl back. You know what I'm saying? That's how they go in relationships, you know what I'm saying, with anything. That's real talk, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you don't miss something until you lose it, you know what I'm saying? Or about to lose it. Sometimes you don't get no act right. Sometimes people don't act right until they don't got it no more, you know what I'm saying? But that's because you have stopped doing what? This is what you stopped doing. Enabling the bullshit. You have stopped enabling the bullshit. You are ready to move around and peacefully detach. Slowly but surely with maintenance to make sure that you're doing it the right way so you're going to be okay. You know what I'm saying? And you know what we call that? Self-worth. That's having self-worth right there. You know what I'm saying? And having self-worth mean what? I respect myself. And not only do you respect yourself, I love myself. You can't love nobody until you can't truly love nobody else unless you love yourself. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes we give too much and we're not receiving enough. Or us giving, if we giving too much and then we're not receiving in the same form of fashion, that is not a form of reciprocity. And if I'm giving more than I'm receiving, then look, that's still scarcity mindset, because our God is the God of intelligence. Our God is not the God of stupidity. That is dumb. So we got but see, it takes consciousness, it takes awareness to realize that dang, I'm giving more than I'm receiving. You know what I'm saying? And so we gotta stop moving like that. We got to do better. And guess what? If you know better, you do better. What you don't know, sometimes you gotta learn and grow. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you gotta go through something to get to something. Sometimes you gotta learn from experience. Sometimes you can't just learn from other people's experience. Sometimes you can't just know from the research. Sometimes you gotta go through it. You gotta enter the dark to get to the light, and that's okay. But you don't want to go so deep into the dark that it's too hard to find that light, because that's cloudiness, that's confusion, that's scarcity, that's confusion. Remember that. We don't do that. And we don't enable BS. And that's how we overcome. That's how we stay connected with God. That's how we stay connected with our highest version of self, having self-worth and respecting ourselves. And that's how we overcome fear. I'll show you.